How are you this morning? How'd you sleep? Slept pretty good. Cold. I like it. I like it a lot. Want to start with a couple things. First, um, we blew through our goal for raising money for the foundation. Um, Last year, we raised $855 that goes to the Mindful Memorial Foundation. This year, I set the goal at 1,500, and we just we blew right past that. I think we're up over 1,700. So just want to say thank you. Thank you for contributing. We do good work at that foundation. It's all goodwill all the time, and it's the kind of goodwill that I feel we can all participate in. Honoring the fallen is something that is not a common. I mean, it's common throughout history, but in America, it really didn't become a part of our kind of shared national responsibility till after the Civil War. So it feels very meaningful to be doing that work. So thank you for helping us raise those funds. They'll be put to good use. The second thing I want to say is, while I am a guide and your facilitator for the training, and I time out the bells, um, ultimately you really don't want to be using me as your kind of guide that much. Um, my job is to frame stuff. So I give things that are kind of hard to wrap your head around, like how do you bring yourself into the present moment, or how do you pay more attention in a more mindful way. I create a framework around that gives it a little bit of substance, but the value comes from your practice with it. So as we train, um, and as we go through the bells, listen to me less and less. Like less and less, spend less and less time focusing on what I'm having to say, and spend more and bring your focus further and further into your own environment, into your own practice. That's really where you'll get the most bang for your buck. And part of the reason I'm saying it now is because the stanzas say it as we move a little bit further along. We're almost done. We've got this week and 2 more weeks, and then we will have achieved the Art of Peace practice for this year. So all that's good stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and kind of come into the theme today, the focus today. So on Monday, I talked about how to identify internal narrative and what to do about it. And I talked about the internal narrative as what goes on inside. And one thing I didn't mention, or I should have mentioned more clearly, is that it doesn't necessarily mean that the narrative is a constant kind of stream of chatter. It could be that the narrative is something that it's like a story that gets triggered, and the whole story doesn't play out, but the story being triggered is enough to trigger what's going on in the inside. And this kind of like, it's like a packet trigger. When you're triggered, it's like a packet kind of goes through your system, and that packet includes thoughts, feelings, emotions, body sensations that all kind of show up in this kind of packet of experience. And those packets can be all narrative, but they also include the they include the story without the story, because narratives are something that we're familiar with. It's not like a new narrative, it's a narrative that we're already familiar with. So because we're so sophisticated in our minds and in our brains, all that the narrative needs to kind of get going as a full experience is just a trigger. So first you have to identify that. Next is what to do about it. And so I talked about what to do about it in terms of mantra. Now, mantra I described a little bit as is what you kind of put in the way of the narrative. So the narrative gets the narrative packet gets kind of triggered, and it starts pushing through your system. So you're getting thoughts, you're getting sensations, you're getting feelings, you're getting expectations. It's pushing through your system. Well, what you do with mantra is you get that narrative to kind of take cover, right? So that's why I say if mantra was a gun, it'd be a squad automatic weapon, because what a squad automatic weapon does is it's a machine gun, right? So what a squad automatic weapon does is it lays down fire. So what you have to imagine is that the enemy is ducking, right? And so when the enemy ducks, the squad can move. So it's not like in the movies where you pop up with the machine gun and it's like just laying people down, because what's happening is that people are typically behind stuff. They're undercover. So when they pop up, you got to get them to pop back down, because when they're popping up, they're lethal. So when the packet of narrative pops up, it can be lethal. So you want to get it back down so you can maneuver, right? So the saw is enemy drops because those bullets are on its way, and then your team moves, right? You move to a more advantageous position, and so that's just how it works. Narrative comes in, mantra goes up, lays down fire, move to a more advantageous position. You're not killing the narrative as much as you're getting it to duck, right? Narratives are are deep parts of us. I mean, when we kind of, to get a narrative packet that kind of rushes through your system, means that what's being triggered is it's deep. It's part of who you are. It's what's called a narrative. It's part of who you are. It's a story. It's like a through line. So you lay down covering fire with mantra, narrative drops. Doesn't mean whatever triggered that narrative goes away. It just means the narrative drops, and then you move to a better position. Okay, so let's do two things. One is, let me further describe what mantra is, and two, I'll give some examples over the past couple days of how this works when it's applied. All right. So mantra. I'm going to give you 3 examples of mantra, all from different kind of spheres of kind of understanding and growth. So one is, I was raised Catholic. I am Catholic. I'm a Catholic. So I practice my relationship to God through Catholicism. So I'm going to give you a mantra there. A Buddhist mantra. Okay. I'm not a Buddhist, but I've studied a lot of Buddhism. Studied a lot of the way the Buddhists understand the internal world. So I feel very close to Buddhism. So I give you a Buddhist mantra, and then I'm going to give you what are called the Bijou syllables. And the Bijou syllables, I think, are Hindu. I think it's the Hindu religion that uses Bijou syllables. I could be wrong about this, but these are three kind of things that are examples of mantra. So in the Catholic tradition, the Lord's Prayer or the Hail Mary can be used in the practice of the Rosary. And so what you do there is you just say it over and over again. So I think a rosary is 50. You say 50 Hail Marys along the beads. Every religion has these little beads that you kind of use. It combines the mantra with a physical sensation. So, so say you're getting triggered by something. So you could do Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now at the hour of our death. Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. Literally, you just say it over and over and over again. So if that was a machine gun, it's trigger, packet, narrative packet, all kind of whole thing going on. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, got it. I understand I'm triggered. Hail Mary, full of grace, or so that lays down covering fire. So the narrative ducks, right? Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. You're basically jamming Hail Marys into your head, and you can move on it. Now, by move on it, I mean, last night, for example, my wife and the children and I were at dinner, and we had a conversation, and it triggered me. There was a part of the conversation that was super triggering. I mean, oh my God, was I triggered. And it was like existential triggering. It was like in my being, I was like, we got to stop this conversation right now. This can't be happening. Ah! And it was like, it was coming out, boy. I was about to lay the law down, da, da, da. And then I was just like, can't do that. And so I immediately started saying the Our Father. So I'm just in my head, right? I'm just saying it. And it took about 10 minutes. I mean, it was 10 minutes of the worst thing I could have possibly listened to. And it wasn't like, it was just something that for me was deeply triggering. But I knew if I said, this can't be happening, da, 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 that would cause even more problems. So I just had to sit with it. And I'll talk a little bit more about sitting with the unbearable stuff, because that's sometimes what you have to do. So got through it, right? So just laid down covering fire with the mantra, moved, and eventually it was over. And once it was over, it was just like, it's just over. It was just like, gosh, I mean, I could have, if I had interrupted that and put all my stuff in there, that would have been a mess. So that's one mantra, right? Another type of mantra is Buddhism. Okay, so the Buddhists, so part of why mantra is used in the religious context, I'm giving it a context of how to navigate narrative. But in the religious context, part of what mantra does is it settles you out of your thinking mind, because so much of our thoughts and our thinking take us away from the present moment. If you can stay closer and closer to the present moment, your relationship to divinity, or your relationship to just the ultimate reality, which in Buddhism is the ultimate reality, is the reality beyond the layers that make up our reality. So beyond the layers of thought, beyond the layers of your body, beyond the layers of karma. So the only place to get to that is the present moment. So in this mantra from the Buddhist tradition is actually specifically meant for what's called Pure Land Buddhism. It's specifically meant for people who were just your lay people, just your regular civilians. How do they practice their relationship to the Buddha in their daily lives? So like, making food, cleaning the house, whatever. How do you develop a relationship there? Well, what they described is you just say this mantra over and over and over again. It's Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu. So you would just say that in your head. Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida, Namu Amida, Namu Amida Butsu. And that's it. That's all you would do. You do that 24 hours a day. The only time you wouldn't do it is when you were sleeping. And so whatever narrative, whatever woe is me, whatever I need this or I need that or life is not fair or whatever. So whatever's going off in your head, you just keep pushing that mantra through. And eventually the narrative it can't land. I mean, that's the thing about our brains. Our brains, if we do something regularly, our brains adapt and change to make that easier to do. That's just what our brains do. So, a sense of enlightenment, right? So you would just do this until you become enlightened, is that there's no longer the packet of narrative that goes through your system is like a whisper. It barely shows up. It's like, and so you just kind of watch it go through. And you're just like, I don't care about that. I know that doesn't help. I'm not interacting with that. Okay, so that's giving you a Catholic or Christian. Now Buddhist. Now let's go Hindu. So Hindu is there's lots and lots of them. What's the Biju syllables, and then there's other ones, but this is just the basic syllables, and the basic syllables are lam, wam, lam, wam, ram, yam, ham, om. Lam, wam, ram, yam, ham, om. Lam, wam, ram, yam, ham, om. So you can do those syllables, right? So that's another style of mantra. And then my daughter Allegra, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you four. I'll give you one more. My daughter Allegra has been dealing with fear. So she saw a preview of a story. It was the story of Madeline. And in the story of Madeline gets a stomach ache, and so she has to go to the hospital. And Allegra knows that story, but she saw it on TV, and that story scared her. So she's been dealing with a lot of fear about um, the unknown and what could happen and worry, et cetera, et cetera. And so she and I have been talking about how to deal with that. And I've been telling her, well, the it is a fundamental reality that there is an unknown that we can't know. That's why it's called the unknown. So how do we have a relationship to that unknown? So in my tradition, it's teaching her about our faith in God. And so for her, this is a brand new relationship. We haven't been going to church because of the pandemic, so the relationship is largely based off what Dad is saying. So there's not a whole lot of structure there. But what I've told her is that um, part of a relationship to God, or in the context of neutral language, a relationship to that beyond the self, is faith. So having faith that what's waiting for you isn't just some random awfulness, but that it is part of a relationship to a divinity that has you in its awareness. So we're not alone. And so I said to Allegra, I said, well, why don't you interact with those moments with a mantra? And she said, well, what's that? And I said, well, just say over and over and over in your head, God, give me strength. So when you're facing that fear of uncertainty and the unknown, just say, God, give me strength. And she said, okay. So I just saw her. She's like thinking in her head, God, give me strength. See her little lips moving, God, give me strength. So that's mantra. All right. So let me just finish up by saying that at Armor Down, we don't promote any particular religion, but we do promote religion. We do encourage you to find a relationship to bigger than yourself. It doesn't matter to me what it is. To me, it's too much of an intellectual exercise to deny that there's something beyond you, that it doesn't make sense to attempt to it takes too much energy to deny that there's more than you. And so in my mind, that energy would be better served as a relationship to what's bigger than you. So I don't have any particular say, or it doesn't matter to me, or I mean, it doesn't matter at all. I think America got this right. It doesn't matter at all, I think, what your relationship to what's greater is. There's no judgment about it, but there is a judgment about having a relationship. So I encourage you to find the relationship to what's bigger than you are, in whatever form gives you the greatest amount of familiarity and comfort. If the pandemic teaches us anything, it's that we have to contend with the unknown. And to contend with the unknown by saying, oh, there's just nothing, seems like it would require far more energy with far less comeback than it would to develop a relationship to the unknown that's familiar and comfortable to you. So just want to put that out there. So anyway, we'll get into mantra now, and get into the practice. So again, get yourself comfortable, and when we're practicing, follow me as much as gives you kind of the way in, right? So once you're kind of settled and into the practice, I'm less and less valuable. I'm the framer, right? I can frame and facilitate, but ultimately the one aware of the internal environment and moving through the internal environment is you. So anyway, I'll stop talking. Let's get to the practice. So get yourself squared away. Here comes first bell. You start by slowing down. You kind of just getting yourself a little bit more comfortable before you settle into examining your environment with your senses. If it feels good to close the eyes, close the eyes. If you want to keep your eyes open, study light and shadow. As the eyes settle into whatever you got them doing, come into your sense of sound. What's available today? What shows up today? What shows up right now? Sense of sound. From there, move into sense of touch. Notice your clothing. Notice what your body's touching. Taste and smell. Noticing taste and smell. Move into second bell. Ground. What's beneath you? You visualize what's underneath you, from the floor beneath you to the foundations or floors beneath that, all the way down to the ground. Feel a connection to the ground. Next, notice the pelvis, base of the spine. Feel free to give a little move here, just a little shift. From there, travel up to the core, belly button, spine, sides. There's some lift here, not compression in, not sucking the stomach in, but just a little bit of lift. I mean, imagine the very center of your pelvic bowl moving up through your guts, lifting up through your guts. Not a lot, but enough to feel a sense of effort, tiny sense of effort upward. Heart space. Heart space, shoulder blades. Give a little move, give a little shift. Just the littlest movement to kind of ping the region, connect to it, notice what it feels like. Just registering what's going on today. Coming up to the throat space. Get that jaw. Notice subtleties at throat. Simple swallow. Subtlety of the breath in and out. Temperature difference. Traveling up further to the head, top of the head, top of the head, top of the spine. See if you can get the spine to raise by a millimeter, top of the head lifting by just a tiny bit, creating that upright, alert spine. And then finish up with your face. Soften the forehead, soften the eyes, the cheeks, the nose, the chin. And then put that little smile there. Take advantage of the little steps that can boost the energy. Just a little smile. Watch what happens. All right, third bell. I'm going to give you a exercise to do, and then you can decide to do it or not. But what I want you to do is, for the next 3 minutes, focus on the exercise and focus on just coming back to the breath. I'll give you a breath exercise, but your job is to try the exercise if you like. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. But mostly your job is to stay coming back to the breath, coming back to the breath. So what I want you to work on is 10 up, 10 down. So you're going to breathe in for 10 seconds, come to the top, and then exhale for 10 seconds, come to the bottom. So it's just a balanced breath. Inhale up 10, exhale down 10. And the reason I want you to do that is I want you to count. This is the counting is is the same thing as mantras. So just count the breaths up, count the breaths down, do that for 3 minutes and begin. So if you want, you can open your eyes or you can keep them closed, but make the little heart symbol with your hands, right? It's kind of a fun little thing to try, but you make the little heart symbol with your hands, and when you're practicing your gratitude, just think about the heart symbol pushing back at you. So imagine the gratitude that you're putting together showing up in your hands, and imagine it focusing back in on your heart. So do that for gratitude. And so for me today, the gratitude is all around just my family, my wonderful wife, and my children. Just the last night by the fire, just hanging out, just having a good time. Just so grateful that was able to happen. Just so appreciative. So thank you for that. Um, Now, in terms of compassion, okay, so you imagine that cultivation, right? So the cultivation is inside my hands, right? So now it's focusing outward. So gratitude is kind of an inward focus, compassion's outward focus. So for all the people that are really struggling in this pandemic experience, whether it's financial struggles, whether it's physical struggles with the actual disease itself, whether it's institutional struggles with the doctors and nurses and all the staff at these hospitals that are really struggling. I hope that you find a moment where you can take a break, and I hope people are, outside of the institutions are really, kind and giving you a lot of positive attention and getting a lot of support, all the support you need. I just hope the best for you. And then you want to finish with being intentional. So you want to take 2 breaths, and on the second exhale, the practice is over. I like that little heart thing. So mantra is saying something over and over again. Doing stuff with your hands is called mudra. Mantra, mudra. These are I don't know. I'm sure Christian tradition has specific names for hands, but I don't know them. Okay. Let me finish with the stanza here, and then you're done for today. All right. 102. Ultimately, you must forget about technique. The further you progress, the the fewer teachers there are. The great path is really no path. All right. Let's get some coffee. Start the day. Hey, we did that in half an hour. Awesome. All right, Armor Down. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.